Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name's, you may be wondering, who is that old geezer? Well, I'm Paul Rainey, the writer and artist of Why Don't You Love Me, published today by Drawn and Quarterly. Neil Gaiman says about it, when I began to read Why Don't You Love Me, I thought it read like any number of slightly surrealistic, slightly vapid early 2000s stories that were basically the cartoonist's way of telling you they hated everyone and everything. And then it came into focus, and it wasn't that thing at all. And then it came into focus again, uplifting and heartbreaking, and a word that I use sparingly, relevant. The kind of story leading to a last panel that's all pain and joy and delivers the whole thing. What a masterwork. To understand all is to forgive all. So you may be wondering who the hell I am. I've been writing and drawing and making comics for decades now. Here's an early example of a fanzine I was involved in called The Spot, which was put together by my friends Robert Lewis, Michael Flack and Rod Boyle, and I was the cartoon editor. I did a strip called Kill Mary, and Greg Heath, the Compulsive Thief. That was in the mid-80s. In the early 90s, I ran out of money and couldn't go out drinking every night anymore. So I stayed in during the week and drew comics. And my friend Michael Gurner, aka the 67 Scribe, smuggled them into his place of work and ran off 5 copies of Super Volcano stories on the office photocopier, which is like a collection of strips I did around that time. Then in the mid-90s, I thought I'd give proper self-publishing a go. And I wrote and drew 6 issues of a comic called Memory Man. There's issue 1. There were 2 issue 1s. I think I got a diamond distribution deal. And if you know anything about the comic industry, orders for issue 1 are always the highest, and then things diminish pretty quickly. Well, orders for issue 1 were really low, and it went downhill from there. After that, I decided to relaunch and produced 2 issues of a comic called Love Bomb, which was an anthology of different types of strips I was into at the time. That was the late 90s. Then in the early 2000s, I discovered this new thing called the internet. And so I started doing a diary strip in which I ordered events in my life into lists, and then I drew them up as comic strips. And I would post a panel from it a day. And then in the mid-late 90s, I was able to publish a collection of book of lists. This features most of them, but not all of them. This is a Telephone Thing, which is a mini comic I published around that time. And Saul the Alien, which was a strip I drew for Love Bomb number 3, but Love Bomb number 3 doesn't exist. After that, I decided I'd like to do a big project, and I thought I really would like to do a graphic novel. So I started work on a comic called There's No Time Like the Present, which ran for 13 issues, self-published issues. Here are some of them. It took me about 8 years to complete the story. I did that between 2005 and maybe 2012. Does that sound like 8 years? Maybe 13. Then after that, I did a comic strip called Thunder Brothers Soap Division, which I enjoyed doing, but no one else seemed to. Then I've been self-publishing stuff pretty much over the last few years. This is Gripe Night, which is a recent self-published comic, which I'm very proud of. A New Canon, which is a collection of Star Wars strips I got paid money to draw. Starman, which is a comic strip adaptation of Lee Scriven's musical about Freddie Baretti. What else have I got? Journey into Indignity, It's another collection of strips. Francis Goes to the Dentist. Crab. Yeah, so I've been pretty productive over the last few years. So in 2013, I successfully sold my first comic strip to Viz, which is a long-running comic over here in the UK. And the strip was called 14-Year-Old Stand-Up Comedian. It's about a 14-year-old who does observational comedy. His routines are usually like, why won't my mum iron my shirts anymore? What's that all about? Are you with me? And Viz thought that was funny. And I've been a semi-regular contributor to Viz. I think I'm in there about 70 to 80% of the time since 2013. But I've been submitting strips to it for like 27 years before I successfully got anything in there. My most recent strip, which is in the issue in the shops now, is called Clairvoyant Dentist. And it's about a dentist who can see your inner secrets by examining your teeth. So he starts off by saying, oh, I see you grind your teeth. And I see you drink some red wine. And by the end of it, he's predicting when you're expected to die. In 2015, Escape Books published a collection of There's No Time Like the Present. That comic I self-published over a period of 8 years. I always hoped that one day I'd find a publisher for it. This is the optimum version of that story. For the collection, I toned the artwork. It's straight black and white in my self-published comics. Peter Stanbury designed the book, and he did a terrific job. It was quite an honour to be published by Escape Books. They had a history of publishing some really good creators, including, ironically, Neil Gaiman's first comic work, I think, Violent Cases. In 2020, I won the Observer newspaper Jonathan Cape Comica Graphic Short Story Prize with my strip, similar to but not, which is about my encounter with Madonna in a Oldbrook pub in Milton Keynes in 1985. A completely true story, apart from 90% of it. So let me tell you a bit about Why Don't You Love Me? It's a graphic novel about a family, I suppose, who are dysfunctional, which is the fashionable thing for families to be, I guess. And it focuses mainly on the parents, Claire and Mark, who clearly are, I guess, perhaps depressed. There's something going on between them. And it's about their day-to-day lives and ultimately about existential crises, I guess. I first started fermenting the idea, probably about 30 years ago. There's a central conceit in it that I'm not willing to reveal that I really wanted to do something with, but couldn't really find a way to express it. Then around 2008, I had a day job, and I was moved into a role that was unbearably dull. And I spent most of the time daydreaming about an idea. And that idea was inspired partly by me reading lots of Peanuts comic strips by Charles Schulz. And I liked the idea that maybe I could do a day-to-day comic online in the format of Peanuts, and then a Sunday version of that strip on Sundays. Obviously, that's problematic because I had a day job. But I thought that maybe I could at least do a Sunday strip. And I had the idea of doing the opposite of Peanuts. So making it entirely about the adults. And the story was going to be about Charlie Brown's parents going through a very difficult divorce. But I realised, which I thought might go some way to explaining why Charlie Brown is the way he is, I realised I probably couldn't pursue that idea because I was probably referring to experiences of people that I knew, which is completely inappropriate. But whilst thinking intensely about it and working on it, at least in my mind, I came up with, I guess, formatting and storytelling ideas that I put in reserve. So when I finished There's No Time Like the Presents and Thunder Brother, I started to think about that project again, and I amalgamated these separate ideas I had and found that it worked very well, or at least to my satisfaction anyway. So originally, Why Don't You Love Me was serialized in Aces Weekly, which is a online subscription comic managed by David Lloyd, the artist to V for Vendetta. And so I'd had a couple of strips in there prior to Why Don't You Love Me beginning. And I thought, well, I might suit that comic, if not tonally, at least it met their formatting requirements. So their formatting requirements, because it's a web browser, means that they prefer the strips to be in landscape rather than portrait. So that, rather than self-publish, I didn't have that concern of, I guess, wasting loads of money, which is what my experience of self-publishing had really been over the years. Very rarely did I get to break even. So that was quite satisfying. Plus, I'm a big admirer of David Lloyd. Just to be associated with him tenuously was cool, in my view. So it was originally serialized over 10 volumes of Aces Weekly. Aces Weekly, if you're not familiar with it, runs in 7-issue volumes every week. And then the 8th week, there's nothing. And then the next week sees the start of the next volume. And each issue has 6 strips in it, and each strip is 3 pages. So for a volume, I had to provide 21 pages. And initially, I didn't approach them. I just got 21 pages done, felt I was very happy with what I'd done, and submitted it to them. And I was very fortunate that they agreed to run it. So that ran over a period of several years. It took me about 4 or 5 years to write and draw it. So I guess it was over that sort of length of time that it was serialized. And then after it finished, I ran the strip on my social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I don't have an Instagram account anymore. No, I do. Sorry. I meant Tumblr, Instagram. I still have an Instagram account and my blog. And I was interested in how people might interact with it. So let me show you what I mean. So this is a sample of the original art. I wanted, when I did Why Don't You Love Me, I didn't really want to fix anything in Photoshop or Procreate. I purposefully wanted the original art to be the best it could be. Because I liked the idea that I had no idea that it would get collected, although I liked that idea very much. I thought that an option would be for there to be an exhibition one day of the original art, and people could walk into a room and not know where to begin reading it. And I would be interested to see if they still got some understanding or pleasure from it, or something from it anyway. That hasn't happened, or at least not to that extent. Some of the artwork has appeared in exhibitions at the Milton Keynes Art Gallery, along with other local artists, but only 4 or 5 pages at a time. And I think I was inspired by the idea that pre-internet, when we would discover something, if you discovered something midway through, you kind of had to put up with where you were. I didn't quite get all of that question. There's a question that popped up that says, who's your favourite sequentially? I don't know that I have. I have lots of favourites because I'm a big comic reader, but yeah, I'm a big fan of. I feel I'm very influenced by early 2000 AD, in particular a writer called John Wagner, who co-created Judge Dredd and many characters for it. I spent a lot of time when I was younger deconstructing how he told the story and distilled the dialogue down to what felt like its bare essentials, at least. I was also really influenced by Eddie Campbell and his autobiographical Alex strips, and a lot of indie creators and artists, I suppose. I liked Mike Mahan a lot, and Chester Brown, and Dan Clowes, and but I also kind of have a big fondness for people like John Byrne, and yes. Thank you for the question. Yes, as I was saying, I was intrigued by the idea of people coming in midway through, which is why I serialized it online. I decided not to make it too easy for people to, if they came in several episodes in, to find the previous episodes. I mean, I didn't make it impossible, but I didn't share an easy route to catch up, because I liked the idea that I was interested to see if people would go to the trouble of trying to find earlier episodes. And seemingly some people did, and they found them quite easily, which I guess I'm quite pleased about. And I think some people interacted with the strip and enjoyed it, but they came in midway through, or read it for a couple of weeks and then missed it for another couple of weeks and came back to it. And it seemed to work for them on that level. I think I failed to mention that one of the formatting styles, so I used that Sunday Peanuts comic strip format, or I felt I did, and each page of Why Don't You Love Me works kind of on its own terms, or at least that was my objective, but they all interlock into a cohesive whole, one continuous graphic novel. But it does mean that every page has the phrase, the title, Why Don't You Love Me on. So there's 210 pages, and I had to draw that 210 times, and I'll be quite happy never to draw Why Don't You Love Me ever again. Yes. So, yeah, I was very... Oh, I've got another question. Fave character in Why Don't You Love Me? Oh, good question. I don't know that I have a favourite character. I ended up being surprised by them. They sort of really took on lives of their own. They weren't necessarily cooperating with me when I was writing the story, which was really good fun. I like Claire very, very much. I like the main characters, obviously, Claire, Mark, Charlie, Sally. There are incidental characters that popped up that surprised me, and their roles became quite important. Esther I liked very much. Carl I really liked. I thought when I was anticipating writing this character that I wouldn't like him, and then the moment I started writing him, I went, oh, I really like him. I really liked Teddy. He really made me laugh. He was good fun. Just because he spoke in such a mangled way. I'm talking about them like they're real people. Yes, there were sometimes even characters that just appeared for a page. There's a character who was the father of a child who was getting a haircut, and he leaves his child in the barber's whilst he pops next door to the bookies to put a bet on. and then he comes back, and he only appears in about 3 panels, but I just really enjoyed the kind of inappropriateness of his actions in that situation. And so, I found that it was, the characters kind of took on a life of their own, beyond my control almost, although that couldn't possibly be true, right? Yes. It reminds me, actually, when I was working on There's No Time at the Present, the way I worked on it was, because I knew it would take me a long time to complete, I didn't want to lose interest in it. So I worked by mapping the story out in very loose terms. So I knew, basically I described it as junction points where I would move the story from one position to another. And then once I got there, I'd move from there to the next junction point, ultimately to the conclusion. Whereas Why Don't You Love Me, I didn't work that way. I didn't really know how it was going to end. All I knew was I wanted it to be 210 pages long, and that was determined by the idea that I was going to serialise it in Aces Weekly, and each volume has 21 pages. But I actually liked that discipline. I liked to work differently on different ways on new big projects. So that suited me. But I knew that I wasn't moving the characters in the same way. I knew I had objectives to move characters from one place to another, but I had to work in cooperation with those characters. Those characters weren't necessarily going to be compliant. And so that experience of working that way was really enjoyable. If you haven't seen the strip online, you may or many of you may not have read it, you may realise that it's quite intense, or at least from the creative point of view, it's quite intense. So I had to take breaks from it every now and then. And so I do like a silly strip from Veers or Starman, kind of as a palate cleanser, so that I was then able to go back and work on the next batch of Why Don't You Love Me's. What else can I tell you? I'm really chuffed. I think I missed a question. Sorry about that. I'm really chuffed to be published by Drawn and Quarterly. Here we go. I'm sorry, Gabrielle, but it doesn't present the whole question, unfortunately. I just got what part of graphic novels, and then it sort of tails off. Sorry about that. I can't see the whole question. I do apologise. But I'll tell you about my fondness for Drawn and Quarterly. So I've been a follower of Drawn and Quarterly since the very beginning, I believe. This is issue 1 of Drawn and Quarterly, which I bought when it came out in 1990 and thought was terrific. And there's issue 8. I think I probably bought that because of the Dan Clowes cover, but the contents are all gold. What graphic novels do I love and hate the most? I love Ducks. I read that recently. That was terrific. That was really good. I really like. There's a David Mazzucchelli graphic novel, which I think Drawn and Courtney may have published. I've forgotten the name of it. It's on my shelf. I've got the wrong glasses on, so I can't see it from here. But Berlin, that's very good. Anything by Dan Clowes, anything by Los Bros and Anders. Sometimes I can enjoy a good superhero graphic novel, but I can't say I've read one for a long while. I do like a good graphic novel, a good chunky read. I don't like I like a good run of a story. Let's see what else I've got. The Sculptor's pretty good. I enjoyed that very much. Yeah, but influential graphic novels. I'm trying to think. I was really inspired by Blankets by Craig Thompson, I think his name is, when that was published in the early noughties. But the reason I liked it is that it's about the width of a doorstep, and I had no idea it was coming. And I thought I was pretty canny about upcoming comics. So when I saw that and read it, it was a delight. And that's kind of what I was trying to emulate with There's No Time Like the Present. Although working on something that's substantial for years in obscurity isn't something I don't think I'm capable of. So I ended up self-publishing it in episodes. And obviously my art isn't nearly as good as his. But yeah, that was very good. Yeah. I've read Artists recently, which was published by Drawn and Courtney, which I enjoyed very much. Yeah, so yeah, it was a good period for graphic novels. I like graphic novels. Oh. Favorite part of creating comics. I really enjoy the writing process. That's great. I'm working everything out and distilling everything down, and timing stuff. I really like that. I like drawing. I really like that. I like, yeah, the only bit I don't like is rubbing out the pencils. And I'm not smart enough to work out how blue line works. So rubbing out is the worst part. Writing it and drawing it is the best part. Lettering, I'd happily let someone else do the lettering. I'm fed up with lettering. I'm not quite so into that. Some people love lettering, but yeah, I never really had much patience for it as as I'm not as much patience for it as I should have, really. I think my lettering's definitely improved, but and people tell me my lettering's fine and very legible, but I don't draw. I just do it straight down, which I think is pretty poor form, apparently. Yeah, much better these days. Oh, how did I ink the pages? Well, I've got this stuff here, which I use, and a brush, a couple of brushes, a 0 and a 1, and a big thick brush for blocking out black areas. And I've also used rotary drawing pens. I did have some refillable ones, which are a bit pricey, but I ended up preferring the disposable ones. You can get for about a tenner, like 3 pens, and they're pretty good, although they actually leak quite often. I like those, but yeah, I since finishing Why Don't You Love Me, I think I've switched to mainly using Procreate on the iPad, which I'm really enjoying at the moment. But I feel I'm missing drawing properly a bit recently, so yeah, I'm likely to revert back to drawing on proper paper. I didn't for years. I keep referring to There's No Time Like the Present. When I did that, I drew half the book on like printer paper, and yeah, when I first used Bristol board, which was relatively recent in my lifespan, it was a revelation to me. So yeah, yes. So I think basically I enjoy the whole process, apart from rubbing out and maybe ruling up panels. I'm not quite up to that. Otherwise, everything else is great. But I like writing a lot, even if my spelling is atrocious. How do you come up with ideas for your comics? Often I steal them from people I know or strangers in the street. I often pay someone else to come up with those ideas. I have a standing order with a company that produces ideas for comics, and then I take full credit for them. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Or actually, the truth is, I get drunk and then just sit with a notepad and write whatever I think of, the first thing that pops into my head. Yeah. Good question. Yeah. What else can I tell you about? Yeah, so I did mention that I originally serialized Why Don't You Love Me online, not originally, but before it got printed, and that ran for about 4 years, as I published a page a week, just over 4 years, and yeah, that was an interesting experience. I hadn't worked out how to automate it, so I had to get up early every Sunday morning and manually publish it. Anyone who's seen my Instagram stuff will know. Oh, any advice for newcomers? Yeah, I don't know if I'm most qualified, as my progress through comics feels slow, but my experience is you just got to do it. You got to write it, you got to draw it, and even if you can't find a publisher for it, you can publish it yourself. It's not a reflection on the quality of what you're doing if you're unable to find a publisher. It's just that there's a lot of people doing it, and there's a lot of good people doing it. And it might be that you're better than those people, and other people aren't so sure about what to make of that. Yeah, so keep plugging away. Just keep doing it. Yeah, try again, and then maybe give up. But you got to keep trying for a bit anyway. And in my case, decades. Yeah. Yes. But yeah, you just got to do it. There's no real rules to making comics. Some people would tell you there are, but there probably aren't, unless I tell you there is a rule, in which case there is. Yeah. Thank you for your question. Yeah. Well, if no one else has any other questions, I think maybe that ought to wrap it up there. Just to remind you, my book, Why Don't You Love Me, is published today by Drawn and Quarterly, available from all good independent book and comic shops. Oh, hang on. I've got. Can you repeat both messages, please? Oh, we have more. Yeah, well, we've got more time. I lost track. I thought maybe it was longer than it was. Anyone else got any more questions they'd like me to answer? I can tell you more about Why Don't You Love Me, perhaps, where I was coming from. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. Congrats on the book. Thank you very much. Yeah, cheers. I'm very proud of it. And Drawn and Quarterly have done a wonderful job. When you buy it, I'd like you all to run your fingers over the slightly raised logo on the front. It's very satisfying. Yeah, and look at that. It's like a real, well, it is a real book. So there's proper lovely end papers, and it does feel very much like a collection of Peanuts books, comic strips, and then you read it, and the experience is something else. Yeah. So you, oh, right. What's your drink of choice? Well, thank you for asking. I'm on red wine at the moment. I'm off the gluten, so yeah, lager's out of the question now. So yeah, my tipple at the moment is red wine. I'm not very sophisticated. I go into the shop and see what's cost £6, and then I buy that. But we've gone up from £5. How do you maintain interest in one project? I think that question is. Well, it's a good question, and it's more about. It feels stupid. So I was thinking earlier today when I did There's No Time Like the Present, that took about 8 years. I sort of lost momentum in it. I know I was into it, but the frequency of the issues slowed down midway through. And the midway through part is the worst part in my experience, because you're just as far from the end as you are from the beginning, and you feel that you've been working on it forever and you've got forever again to go. But I remind myself that I don't want to have wasted all this time that I've put into it so far. And it's not so much that the middle is the dull bit from the reading point of view, or nothing's happening from a narrative point of view. It's just that sense of satisfaction that you imagine you're going to get when you finish it just feels a long way off. I tell myself that I don't want to let my past self down by not completing the project. A good way to do it, I feel, with Why Don't You Love Me, is a good example of that, is breaking it down into units. So I broke it down into a page at a time. So by thinking of each page as a thing on its own terms, it made it more manageable. I was able to focus on then getting the next page done. There's No Time Like the Present, because I broke it down into issues, even though it narratively isn't broken down in that way. It made it manageable and achievable. When I did Thunder Brothers Soap Division, the idea was ultimately that story would lock together. So it was going to have lots of self-contained stories that then locked together into this big, huge narrative. And although I didn't get anywhere near progressing beyond much of the start in the big narrative, I did still get little short stories that I'm very satisfied and happy with. So, yeah, that's an example where I kind of, well, not so much let myself down, but realised that it wasn't working as I'd hoped. But that doesn't mean that I'm in any way ashamed of what I've done or feel that what I did didn't work. It just means that I probably got out at the right time. So, but with Why Don't You Love Me, I would have needed to have finished it. Well, thank you for listening to me waffle on. I don't know about you, but my voice is quite annoying. And thank you so much for joining me. And I hope you will buy and enjoy Why Don't You Love Me, available from all good independent comic and bookshops from today. Thank you.